Welcome back, students. We are with our this class on the Anglo-Indian and Indo-Anglian writings. We have read that in the beginning, the Englishmen living or visiting India wrote about their experiences and adventures in English, and that was called Anglo-Indian literature. But this term had a racial meaning, a racial implication, and the writings by the Indian in English were not included in it. So when their writings were included, the name was appropriately changed to Indo-Anglian literature. And nowadays it is called Indian writings in English or Indian English literature. Now, what were written or what are the famous works of this literature? Just have a look at it. Sir Thomas Roe wrote a journal of his life in court. John Fryer had an interview with Aurangzeb and wrote about contemporary politics of Western India. There is another gentleman, Robert Orme, he was an Anglo-Indian historian. Sir William Jones founded the Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal in 1784. He also translated Shakuntala and wrote many hymns about Indian gods. Sir William Jones is very famous. Another famous figure is James Todd, who wrote Annals and Antiquities of Rajasthan in 1829. Henry Louis Vivian Doreggio, he has written The Fakir of Zangira. Major David Richardson, in his first critique of this literature in his book Literary Lives, Literary Recreations, he is the first critic, we can say. In 1856, Edwin Arnold published The Light of Asia, a poem on Buddha. The song Celestial is a poetic rendering of the Gita. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee's Rajmohan's Wife, published in 1864, is the first Indian novel in English. Vivekanand, Aurobindo has written an epic Savitri, and Rabindranath Tagore used the language to introduce the Indian culture and philosophy to the West. Besides that, these are the prominent writers we are familiar with. Michael Madhusudan Dutt, he has written Meghnath Batt, Toru Dutt, she has written Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan. Rabindranath Tagore, famous for his Gitanjali, and he is the recipient of Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913. Mahatma Gandhi's work, My Experiment with Truth, Jawaharlal Nehru's book, The Discovery of India, and then the great trio of Indian English literature, Ramanujan, Mulk Raj Anand, and R.K. Narayan. They are famous as novelists. Raja Rao, Mahesh Dattani, Salman Rushdie, V.S. Naipaul, Amitav Ghosh, Vikram Seth, these are the recent modern prominent writers of Indian writings in English or Indian English literature. Earlier, this Indo-Anglian literature was regarded inferior to other literature on Commonwealth. Now it has gained its own form and status. It is both Indian literature and also a variation of English literature. But now it is a part of Indian literary corpus. Now have a look what our textbook says. First, read from here Anglo-Indian literature. The term Anglo-Indian literature refers to the literature which is an outcome of Indo-English Literary Association. England and India had come together or had been accidentally thrown together, and out of this affiliation was born Anglo-Indian literature. Writers such as Sir William Jones, John Lydon, Sir Edwin Arnold, Meadows Taylor, F. W. Bain are considered proponents of Anglo-Indian literature as they had lived in India for several years and used the English language to give expression to their thoughts and ideas. However, the work of Kipling or Forster belongs completely to English literature, just as Pearl Buck and Louis Broomfield, even when they chose to write about India, should be classified only as American writers. So Forster and Kipling and the English writer who have written about India are not included in our this category. The term was used as early as in 1883 to describe a volume printed in Calcutta, now Kolkata, entitled Specimen Compositions by Native Students. This term was used freely for quite some time. However, now, both for Indo-Anglian and Anglo-Indian writing, the term Indian writing in English is used. And after the term Anglo-Indian, there come this term Indo-Anglian literature. Let's read it out. The term Indo-Anglian literature has gained wide acceptance since the last few years. It is no longer regarded as an inferior version of English. Several terms of contempt, such as Hobson Jobson, Butler English, Bearer English, Chi Chi English, Kitchen English, came its way. But they have become a thing of the past. Now, Indian English has fully developed and matured as a language, literary language. In the present times, it has gained an individuality of its own. George Sampson used the term to describe Indian creative writing in English without making a distinction between the literature containing local Indian flavor produced by British writers such as Alfred Lyle, Edwin Arnold, Kipling, Steele, Forster, etc. The literature with an Indian backdrop written by native Indians in English such as Michael Madhusudan, Rabindranath Tagore, Sri Aurobindo, Sarojini Naidu. The distinction is meaningful and must be maintained. It is for the latter category that the term Indo-Anglian literature is used, not for Forster and the other British writers. Indo-Anglian literature has been gathering verve and varieties in the hands of illustrious persons such as Doreggio, Michael Madhusudan, Gurudutt, Tagore, Sri Aurobindo, Sarojini Naidu, Nissim Ezekiel, A.K. Ramanujan, R.K. Narayan, Mulk Raj Anand, Raja Rao, Anita Desai, Shashi Deshpande, Kiran Desai, and most recently Chetan Bhagat and many others. Indian writing in English have effectively expressed the variegated pictures of Indian life and thus added a fresh flavor and a new direction to English literature. As a matter of fact, Indo-Anglian literature encompasses both Indian literature and a variation of English literature. It is this literature that holds the key to the future. Sri Aurobindo believed that the future poetry will acquire a mantric quality, and such poetry will be first manifested in Indo-Anglian literature. Tagore has remarked, it has a future for it is quickened with life. That is about our Indo-Anglian literature. Thank you very much for watching. In our next class, we will discuss the Indian Renaissance.